Has OpenAI also achieved AGI internally? Joke.
A week at OpenAI is like equal to months in another company because
They're shipping so fast all the time.
Exactly.
Someone who wants to get a job at OpenAI, what advice would you give?
We'll have to be slightly patient because we're going to look at expanding our team. In the meantime, really understand our models, play with it, develop something on it if you can.
Do you think in the future there would be companies that are just run by agents and there's one single founder? OpenAI India is like that right now. Sam Altman visited India. He said that Indians can't build something like GPT, GPT-3, GPT-4. So now you're working for that company. How does it feel like?
At that point, when nothing had really moved, it felt like it's going to be a massive uphill task to get there. The stuff that's coming out of India is just incredible.
A model is able to reason now and take now. How do you see that evolving in the next 5 years, 10 years?
4.0 was like graduate level intelligence. And you look at O1 today, it's like a PhD level intelligence, right?
What's the point of OpenAI in India?
Oh, many reasons.
Welcome to the second episode of What's the Point? Today we are at ITC Gardenia and I have Pragya Misra with me, the first India OpenAI employee. Hi Pragya, thank you so much for coming to AIM and What's the Point as well.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Really excited to have this conversation with you.
So I'll just cut to the first question straight. What's the point of OpenAI in India?
Oh, many reasons. I think I will start with what's really the point of ChatGPT and our tools for the world, right? And I think just in 2 years, you've seen so much of progress and intelligence becoming, better and better as we release more and more models. And I think the most interesting part is that it's also getting cheaper.
Yeah.
And so therefore, accessibility is increasing. And so really, OpenAI's mission is to build AGI to benefit all of humanity. Yeah. And so therefore, that comes and brings us to India, where, the largest humanity in the world today is in India. And so therefore, it's really critical. And OpenAI takes, the work that we do here in India, very, very seriously. And so therefore, I joined them in May to lead public policy and partnerships. But, being the only person on the ground, I obviously see myself as an ambassador for the company and, doing and wearing multiple hats, which I particularly enjoy doing since I'd done that at WhatsApp as well a few years ago, being their only employee. But, I think India is really important because, it's the youngest demographic in the world.
Yeah.
And, as many of these young people are early adopters, we've seen a massive uptake of ChatGPT in India.
Yeah.
It's almost our second largest country in terms of users outside of the US. And that's really a testament to how excited people were to really use ChatGPT. And then I think secondly, just even the developer community is the largest outside of the US again. And, we've seen some incredible solutions come out of the Indian developer ecosystem, whether that's in health, in education, in agriculture, even in the areas of accessibility. And I think those have been examples to us on how really our models can be used in specific areas like this. And I think third is really, 900 million mobile phones. Right?
Yeah,
and many of them, I think around 700 being smartphones. And we want to see how when you have a population like that, which has access to the internet and access to digitized tools and access to mobile phones, how can they really move the needle really from the bottom of the pyramid all the way to the top, right? And I think I often say this, that if you can solve for India, you can easily solve for the world, because the diversity that we have, in India, it's almost like a continent of cultures and languages and everything all coming together and coexisting. And so therefore, India is a very important country for OpenAI. And therefore, you're seeing many things coming out of here, and a lot of our execs coming here and really listening and learning to what developers have to share about the tools with us, or what policymakers are talking to us and sharing with us when it comes to safety and privacy. And also, lastly, what is coming really to us in terms of feedback on costs and pricing, because, we do understand this is a price sensitive country, and so are many others. But therefore, we've reduced costs on our tokenizers, specifically in, Indic languages. and bringing along many other, similar initiatives to make sure that, we serve Indians really, really well.
Yeah. So when it comes to someone who wants to get a job at OpenAI and is working in Bangalore, what advice would you give?
I think at least from an India perspective, we'll have to be just slightly patient because we're going to look at, expanding our team, doing the rest of it and really, looking at specifically what teams require here, hopefully, sooner than later. And at that point, I think, that person should certainly apply. But I think in the meantime, just really understand our models, play with it, develop something on it if you can, because if nothing else, you'll certainly learn and unlock something both within yourself and for society if you've been able to create a solution that's relevant.
I have to ask this question because this is the question that comes to every Indian's mind when I talk about OpenAI.
Yeah, please.
So when Sam Altman visited India, he said that Indians can't build something like GPT, GPT-3, GPT-4. And so now you're working for that company. How does it feel like? What is the Indian AI startup lacking? Or do you think that is actually lacking? Or how is that claim been so far?
So, I don't exactly recall what he said specifically, and maybe we should try and pull that up. But I think all I would say is that, my interaction with Sam, he's someone who is very, very self-aware, very respectful, very open, always wanting to learn, and he's always curious. He wants to take everyone along. And so I think it was just also, it was also the way the question was asked at that moment. And literally, there was no conversation around AI in India at all at that time. This was, I think, earlier in 2024 when he was here. I think it was Feb or something like that. When this conversation happened. And, even though it's just Feb earlier this year, it looks like a completely different era when it comes to AI and just how many versions and just even Indian companies that have emerged from then to now are just many. And, and the ecosystem is really thriving. And therefore, I think, it was very difficult to really say what at that point. I think the question was very loaded in the way that, is India going to be able to build frontier models? I think something like that. I think just the way frontier models are today, the amount of compute they require, the amount of, research investment that is required, not to say that India can't do it, but I think at that point when nothing had really moved, it felt like it's going to be a massive uphill task to get there. Yeah. And I think if somebody asked him the same question today, or whenever he visits India, I think the response will be very, very different because the world has moved, and so I think it didn't come from a place where I think just the way it was received was he's
challenging. That is what people interpreted it like. Like it's a challenge, but it wasn't really like that.
Yeah, I think that world just looked different, and I think that's where he was really coming from because now that I know him, I feel like he just loves India. Like every time I message him about something on, this is what I heard today about, this use case for our model. And he's always very excited to say, how can we do more? How can we drive more adoption? How can people, use our models to solve India specific challenges? And what is it that, what resources do you need from HQ to make that happen? So I think he's just very, very excited about the opportunity that India has.
I think our editor would be very happy when he hears that Sam Altman loves India.
He does. He genuinely does. He just loves always to hear what's happening because I would say compared to many of the solutions we see coming out of other countries just from our developer ecosystem, the stuff that's coming out of India is just incredible. It's actually cutting edge. It's really forward. It's really thinking about not only for India, but how our countries in and around India also being able to solve that problem. Yeah. A lot of the agri solutions that we're seeing come out of India or healthcare solutions are also being very helpful in countries like Africa and Vietnam and Malaysia and, this part of the world. And so we're seeing already that happen. And so, he actually gets extremely excited when he talks about India.
So if you're setting up an office in India, like you're the first employee, and I think it's a little harder when you compare it to setting up in the West, maybe. So how is that process going? You're still the only employee of OpenAI in India. So is there any difficulty when it comes to hiring people in India, or the plans are different right now?
It's been a lot of fun, I would say. The last 5 months, it's taken me back to my startup journey. I almost feel like, I'm back to, being sort of a founder, but obviously, much larger umbrella with a brand that is so well known and so well established, and with technology which is cutting edge and, really tip of the spear in many ways. But yes, I'm sort of working from home, and often actually for the last 6 months, I would say I've been working from a plane, been
Okay.
traveling around, meeting a lot of people, trying to understand how our tools are being used, what else can we do. I think listening to developers, listening to our users is particularly important for our researchers and for our product team. And similarly for me, I love doing that, and it's really taken me back. But there is immense amount of excitement.
Yeah.
And I think in general, India is just AI optimists and filled with them, I would say.
Absolutely.
Compared to, let's say, what I hear from my colleagues in Europe or in the US. So, I think I just sort of enjoy, walking into many of these rooms and, just receiving this love and attention and excitement, which at this point, I don't have too much to claim except the fact that, I'm working for OpenAI, but I'm making the most of it.
Definitely. So since you said that it's like starting your own company again, and you work remotely and on the flight every time. So I think about Narayan Murthy's quote about working 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
How many hours do you work?
I think there's no line that I draw. I've always loved what I do. And I think I've always, as a personal value, really pushed for excellence. And I enjoy doing that. And I think the kind of environment that OpenAI is in right now, where it's so dynamic, we need to be really agile. We need to keep pivoting and shifting as models get more and more intelligent. Almost, I think, a week at OpenAI, I almost say that is like equal to, months in another company, because we launch some update.
They're shipping so fast all the time.
Exactly. And, I think just with that and SF decides to ship stuff, but things in India don't stall for that, right? You still have your regular routine stuff that keeps going on in terms of meetings and all of that. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I enjoy my work, and I'm enjoying it because just the talent density in this company is just incredible. I've always wanted to surround myself with people who are smarter than me, but I think just the level of intelligence, or rather the level of talent, I would say, and the layers that people have to them who work at OpenAI. So I think what I'm saying is that it's just so much fun to work in an environment and have such smart, incredible colleagues that, you just get inspired to do more and more and push yourself.
Do you think such attitude is in Indian AI startups lacking, or what can they learn from OpenAI? Like, there are a lot of AI startups that are coming up in this space. Also, added to that, do you see them as competition, or do you think it's a collaborative approach?
100% a collaborative approach. Okay. Absolutely. And I think, many of the companies and nonprofits who we are seeing, actually develop solutions in India are using many of our models. And in many ways, we support them, through our credits program, or we also give them access to, technical support sometimes that they might need it, because this is still a new technology, and so very often you need some, minor support, and we're always there to help, get on calls. Different matter, the call might be like at 11 p.m. for a Indian founder, but, we're at least making sure that we're building that bridge and that bond, and making sure that it feels like it's much closer and closer. And hopefully you'll see a lot of that expansion happening next year as well. But, I think I feel that, Indians are just extremely driven. And I think I would like to also, quote what, PM Modi ji said, which is, AI in India is really aspirational India. And I think there's a lot that I am seeing in terms of excitement and movement. And, one example of that when this got demonstrated was just a couple of weeks ago when Jensen was in Bombay, right? And you saw that there were close to 7,000-8,000 developers who showed up, and it wasn't in Bangalore. So you can imagine, like everyone took that flight, made the effort to show up, and just the incredible amount of solutions that are coming out, because, they're thinking on how can I use this global frontier model to really customize it and develop it to solve my immediate problem in my space, in my language, in my cultural context. And I think that's really what OpenAI and what we hope that people do. So honestly, I don't really have any advice. I think we're all on the right track. and we're just moving along with the way the intelligence is moving. And I think that's the only piece that I would say that often, people come and ask. Srinivas, who's our VP applied, was here recently, and a lot of the developers asked him this question, what should we be really developing? And, you'll hear many of our leaders say this, that, don't bet your business model against many of these frontier models, because the models are just going to get smarter and smarter. 4.0 was like graduate level intelligence is where we were rating it. And you look at O1 today, it's like a PhD level intelligence, right? And this has happened
within reasoning and thinking at the same time.
Exactly. And this has all happened within months. And so, just be very aware of what direction is that intelligence moving towards. And then just make sure you're building along with the wave, along with the current. And that's really going to help you be very successful.
Definitely. I also wanted to ask you about the O1 model, good that you brought up. How do you see that, like a shifting paradigm complete in intelligence? Like a model is able to reason now and think now. How do you see that evolving in the next 5 years, 10 years? And has OpenAI also achieved AGI internally? As this is
5-10 years is a really, really long time in just what we're building. So I think I can talk a little bit about where we are seeing O1 even today. It's a model, like you said, it actually reasons and thinks. And so, if I was to draw a human parallel, if I was to ask you, Mohit, what's your favorite color? You'll give me an answer like that, and you'll be like, it's black. Or, what do you enjoy eating? Or, I enjoy eating Japanese. Or, you'll give me those answers fairly quickly. And so all of the models up till 4.0 were like that, where you were getting a lot of the answers very, very quickly and almost instantly. But that's not how humans in their real life behave, right? We also solve complex problems where, you asked me a very complex question in terms of like, what's the vision for OpenAI in the next 5 years? Now, I can't give you an answer instantaneously on that. And often we need to go away, think about that, ruminate over it, do some research, come back, maybe ask you a few more questions. And I think that's really how O1 actually functions. And the really nice part is that when it starts to give you the answers, it also tells you what presumptions it's making. And so therefore you have clarity in terms of how is it basing a lot of the advice and the output that it's giving you. So if you want to make some shifts, you have the ability to do that so that the outcome you get next time around is different.
It's different,
And so therefore, when it comes to anything around STEM, whether it's maths, physics, coding, all of those pieces, we are seeing a massive uptake on. When we gave early access to a few people, they really used it, in areas of, genetic mapping. They also did a lot of, formulation and sort of physics problems they tried to solve with it. And they got some great outcomes. So I think that's the direction in which O1 is moving. And you will see that, when we talk about really challenges in India, that could be around energy or could be around, climate change or so many other, challenges that we have where India is not really unique, but the way we are unique is just the scale at which we do everything. And so you will see that, O1 is going to take massive adoption for researchers, for academicians to be able to have a buddy who is PhD level. Think of 5 interns who you have at a PhD level available to you at any time, whether that's 2 a.m. or 5 p.m. or whenever you have an idea, and you can really ideate and brainstorm and come up with ideas that you then tomorrow can go and experiment with.
So do you think that O1 reasoning and those models are different for India when it comes to Indic languages? We are focusing a lot on Indic models as well in India. And also the conversation around, again, the internet users and the UPI users. So most of them want to interact with voice-based conversation, like they want to have a conversation. Is OpenAI headed in that way when it comes to Indic AI and solving those problems?
I mean, I think it's fair to say that everything we will do will move towards multimodal always. And so, you will have access to all of the capabilities that you see on, 4.0 eventually. And that's simply because, O1 is a very intense model. And so like we just, the compute is a lot. And so, it's difficult to very quickly jump into that multimodal capability so soon. But, I think, like I said, it's fair to to presume that we will all be moving in that direction, and because we see that is really the most natural way for humans to have interactions.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone looking down and typing is not how we talk. Like,
Yeah.
we talk like this. I visually receive you. I speak with you. I'm also looking at your body language. And that's usually how we really interact. And so I feel like a lot of our models are really moving in that direction where, today our voice models, they emote. The intonations are all correct. You can, interrupt the voice model in the middle if you wanted to ask another follow-up question. It also speaks to you in like, pure Kannada and then in colloquial Kannada and then, like just how you and I would speak in Hindi, it's able to look at all of that. And that intelligence is already getting better and better.
When it comes to setting up the office in India again, following up on that, what is the difficulty when it comes to finding the researchers again? And since we have strawberry model from OpenAI, is there any plan for a jalebi model?
That's a good one. Yeah, I should put that to our researcher team and be like, I think this is an interesting name, and maybe bring them down to India and let them have jalebi in Chandni Chowk. Maybe they'll get a bit inspired with that if they don't suffer with the Delhi belly, but hopefully we'll get over that. But I think coming back, there's no difficulty. I think you should, there's so much attention on OpenAI, and often it's all for the right reasons because of the models that we are building and how that's changing the world. But we sometimes tend to forget that it's still only a 2-year-old product company, while the research lab has been there for much longer. And just to be able to move with being a product company, which is a consumer company, then moving towards becoming an enterprise company as well, because we're serving a lot of enterprises, and continuing to move at a breakneck speed, even on our products and our models, all of that all together means that often some things get deprioritized. And I think it's just not a function of the fact that India is not important, but we recently just opened an office in Paris just last week. We announced that we opened an office in New York, and so you will see a lot of that action now moving towards APAC as well, and much of that will play out, I think, sometime next year.
That you said India is a very AI optimist country as well, and AIM as well is very AI optimist. So, what is your idea of AGI?
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. We often talk about that even within the company. It's tough to say, but I think when maybe the model feels a lot like interacting with a very smart, intelligent human being on the other side, I think we'll often maybe feel like what it is to have AGI. But, I think we have like a preparedness framework, and we have 5 levels of how we think it looks like for us to really have that path to AGI. And, one was just reasoning was one level. And then, I think moving towards agentic models is, I think, the second level. And like that, we've graded it so that, because I think AGI again is not defined. It means different things for different people and for different companies and for different frontier models. And so this is just our little attempt to say, if maybe we are moving ahead on this path, then hopefully, that's a good roadmap to say we are closer to AGI or we're not.
Do you think in the future there would be companies that are just run by agents and there's one single founder? Maybe OpenAI India is like that, right?
I'm still looking for my agents, but yeah, if you say I have them, okay. I think, it will give the ability for people to certainly run multiple businesses and do multiple things, because there will be much more efficiency and productivity in the workplace. And I don't think that, it's going to be that, one person runs a company and like they don't have any team and like agents are doing everything. I still feel like there is a deep need for, humans to take the critical decisions. And that's also how we build our technology. It's always supporting you. It's not giving you the solutions. I think it's, it might give you the answer, but then as a human, you need to take that decision whether you want to go that way or this way.
So, this safety part, I think, do you think the Indian government is doing well enough when it comes to promoting AI and also safeguarding the people from whatever the privacy issues? The hallucinations is one of the things that people are concerned about a lot. Do you think the governments of the world, not just India, are they doing enough when it comes to building resilience for AI?
For sure. I think India is very different from how we are seeing this in other parts of the world. And to my earlier point, that's because we've seen just how early adoption and using technology and using techno-legal, regulation or frameworks can really bring a lot of value for us as a population, and build that depth where, if you look at a world, pre UPI or pre DPI, it looked very, very different for us. And today it looks completely different, right? Where
Yeah.
everyone has a phone, no, not many people carry cash, and you're able to make those transactions. And so I feel like, all my interactions, at least, with the government has been very forward looking, and that's extremely welcoming. And even with the India AI mission that they have launched,
Yeah.
you're constantly seeing some movement, some action that is really showing the commitment that even the government has to make sure that, we are part of that AI conversation
Yeah.
constantly,
Yeah.
and that India is playing its part even in the global conversations that are taking place around AI. So, I think their approach has been, great, and also from a safety, from a privacy perspective, I think there is enough and more in terms of directions that they are providing. At least us as a company, I can say at OpenAI, those are things we take very, very seriously. And, you can read a lot about that on our website. We're very transparent. Every time we launch a model, there is a system card that
Yeah.
we put out with it. And so that gives you all the guardrails. It tells you, how the model is supposed to really perform and what it's supposed to do, what it's not supposed to do. So if you're really interested, you can go in there and read about that. Even from a safety perspective, we do a lot of testing, compared to, or rather, we do a lot of testing at the training stage.
Yeah.
Then, so that's really pre-training, then during training, then post-training. And even after we release models, we're constantly getting feedback, and we take that feedback into consideration as well. And I think that's really the advantage that a model like ChatGPT has, where, we can constantly make those tweaks,
Inflations.
which I think, in other models sometimes, which is, where, you're just building on your own on premise,
Yeah.
the value that we bring in terms of the safety and the privacy values that are inherent in the model
Yeah.
don't often get translated on the models that, are on premise, because you're just building, and then you put the solution out there, and then you get to know later on, oh, this was not safe, or okay, maybe it's answering questions that actually the model shouldn't be answering, right?
Yeah.
And those are things we really take care of early on.
I think that is one of the things that people talk about a lot as well when it comes to open source and OpenAI. That conversation has been going on for, I think, the last 6-7 years, ever since OpenAI founded. Do you see any future when OpenAI is going to release more open source models again?
I think we do that even now, right? I think our Whisper is open source,
Yeah.
and I think, again, I think it brings us back to constantly our mission, and that's because even as a company, we keep going back to that. That look, we are here to benefit all of humanity, and so what does it take to do that? And if it takes where, we are making the most intelligent model available for free to everyone around the world,
Yeah.
and also making that cheaper over a period of time. Today, our 4.0 is already 10x cheaper compared to 3.5.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're already doing that. And that's a big push within the company that our latest and leading models should be available for free.
Yeah.
And so I think, that is what is going to really bring benefit to everyone.
So, Sir Nandan Nilekani always talks about it. India being the AI use case capital of the world. And on the other hand, there are some other people as well who talk about building something global,
Mhm.
like maybe a OpenAI from India, a Google from India. So, which side do you align on more?
I don't think it's a function of more. I think I see myself as someone who wants to support the community and India with whatever OpenAI can bring, because, that's the company hat I wear. But
Yeah.
of course, I'm an Indian first, and I live in this and in this society, and that's obviously very close to my heart. How can the amalgamation of that really be able to take India forward? I think that's how I see it. And so I think it's never a zero-sum game. Is it this or that? I think often it's fun to have that conversation because it
Yeah.
can be controversial and
Yeah.
leads to, more engagement and fun reels. But the real conversation is really just collaboration, and, can we bring strengths together on the table? And, as Indians, we understand what we need. And the frontier models are already doing incredible work in terms of intelligence for the world. How can we bring that together and not just solve, I would say, for our local community or for India, but take that solution and take it to the world. I think there are already many startups today,
Yeah.
who are serving communities outside of India. And so you have the ability to do that already today. And can you then really layer in, AI assistance, or can you layer in much more AI, which is, in the back end, you
Yeah.
can't really see so much. Healthify is a great example
Yeah.
where, they use OpenAI vision models where today, I'm trying to be calorie conscious. And so, I just take a picture of what I'm eating in my plate, and it pretty much tells me what's on my plate and then breaks down the calories. And so, you don't know what's happening in the back end, but it's
Yeah.
delivering value for you. And so, the OpenAI models are doing that work for you in the back end. But Tushar's been really smart in integrating that and really being the leading, and therefore has become the leading product in
Yeah.
the weight loss and the health and the wellness category. So I love what they're doing.
Yeah, the Healthify is an amazing example of what how OpenAI has penetrated the Indian ecosystem as well.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite use case of OpenAI's technology? Maybe ChatGPT. How do you use ChatGPT the most in your regular life?
My favorite use case is honestly just accessibility. I mean, I think if we can bring many more people to contribute towards society and feel like they're included, because often, if you have a disability of some sort, you feel like you are not in any way contributing either to conversations or to society or even economically. And so you're not financially independent. And
Yeah.
they often get very marginalized. And I think just our models have the ability to bring them along. And I think that's really just incredible. We have this non-profit that is called Be My Eyes.
Be my yeah.
And they used our vision models to help blind people around the world. And I recently met the secretary, the secretary of disabilities here in the government of India, and he is so energetic, has so many ideas, and we want to collaborate with them and see how can we not just serve only the blind people, because that, of course, I think is in many ways very, very ahead, but also look at what can we do for speech disability, or, for the deaf and for others. And I think I really see massive opportunity there for us to be able to solve that problem. So that I'm personally very, very excited about. And personally, I think, I use it almost obviously every day for my work. But I think the most interesting and the most valuable use case for me has been, I like to exercise or I like to walk in the evening, is just really just talking to ChatGPT and saying how my day went, how each of my meetings went. And at the end, just do like a quick summary of what happened and then the next steps for the next day. And it gives it all to me in text. And so it becomes very easy for me when I wake up the next day to be able to just, go back to it and start my day with what the next steps are. And I think that's really been very, very helpful for me. The second one is, just can it like just do simple things like build a recipe for me, or just like build a weekly food plan. I mean, these are things that women struggle with, and women, and especially working women, where we are juggling so many multiple things.
Yeah.
So it just brings in a lot of efficiency and productivity in those areas. I just put the menu and I know what my calorie count is, take a
Yeah.
print of it, and it's on top of the fridge, and then it just life becomes so much easier. And I think third is just been also introducing OpenAI, and I think certainly the voice model to my family, and my mama, mommy, my parents, all of them who now are avid fans, and they're like, this is incredible because it's also helping them be more curious, and they're able to ask any question that they want, which they can get an answer for.
Yeah.
Which earlier they had to type or open some other tool and start to actually look for it, and in the middle somewhere they would press something else and then you're in another window.
Yeah.
And so I think just seeing the delight that it brings on their face when it's helping them also meet them where they are in their life and really unlock value for them and
Yeah.
create these delight moments, I think is just amazing.
Is there anyone in your family who gets scared when you talk about, oh, I'm working at OpenAI, I'm building artificial intelligence? Is there any? Because I was talking to my grandfather the other day, and when I spoke about AI and artificial intelligence, the immediate idea that they think about is something bad is going to happen. So, is there any instance like that has happened with you?
I think that comes more from a place of not actually using the technology. the fear of the unknown in many ways. And my usually go-to is I just open the model and I'm like, okay, let's have this conversation and tell me, what are your fears? Let's ask the model what your fears are and are they real or are they not? And invariably 5 minutes in, like they just grab my phone and they're on their own trip. And like I'm almost non-existent in the room, right? And I think that's just to show how exciting this technology is. And I think it's in anything in life, just as humans are, right? One, when there is extreme amount of change. Two, when there are these moments of the unknown. Fear and anxiety is very well placed, right? You're bound to be in that state. But each of those moments have taught us that society has only prospered from there. More and more, I would say there's been a lot of upward mobility, social mobility as well. When we've had those moments in society in the last, 200, 250 years, 300 years. And so I think if you were to just look back at that, I think this is extremely promising in terms of what will the world look like in a year or 2 years or 3 years or 10 years down the line. And I think we should be really excited about the technology, use it, embrace it, and see what it can do for us in our lives.
So next time any of our audience member is using ChatGPT, do you think they should put hi and how are you before talking to the chatbot? Because in the future, what if it gets rogue? That is a question that people have. Generally people have. I've seen people still put hi before asking a ChatGPT anything, and sir as well I've seen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very, very, very interesting that you say that. No, you don't. It's amazing. Even I remember when we used to talk to Alexa and Google back in the day, and you'll be like, hi, Alexa, can you do this for me? And then you say, when it does it, and you're like, oh, thank you. And, I think it's just so instinctive. And I think those human values are very important. We should lose them. That connection is very, very important. But I think just to the earlier point on just super alignment and how much care we take around safety, at least I can say for us at OpenAI, I think we hope that never happens. And I think a lot of the work that we're doing with governments around the world is to achieve that end, that, whatever we're developing as a technology, we want to make sure that it is only for the better. And the exceptions that emerge, which they will, how can we be better prepared? And how can we be better prepared all around, not just in a silo that a country is better prepared or a section of society is better prepared, but how can we really collaborate and have these, global conversations and make sure that everyone is knowing where this is moving, and can we all become more resilient to whatever is to come? Because we've seen, again, many of these moments where technology has been misused. And I think some of it has come as a shock and we've not known what to do and how to calibrate against that. But that is why we're constantly having this conversation. Or that's why, Sam went out on a world tour where he obviously also visited India to really say that, we should start thinking about what that regulation should look like, or what is the right way for governments to sit on the same table and have conversations around, what is the right way to regulate AI. So I think those are very, very critical, and we're doing our part. And, I'm seeing others in the industry do their part as well.
So on that note, Pragya, I would like to thank you very much for joining us for What's the Point podcast. And I would also like to thank you for what you're doing for India and for the AI community of the world. And
thank you. That's very kind.
Till the time that you don't get another employee at OpenAI, I would assume that you're working with AI agents. Is that okay?
No, don't make that assumption. Like I said, I wish I had those AI agents. Please find them. But it's been a pleasure having this conversation. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. And, I think I'm really excited about what OpenAI has already done in India and what else we can do in the next year or so. So, keep tracking us, keep watching, what we're doing, and please keep providing us feedback on how can we improve our models and build on our tools. I think I would love for many, many more interesting solutions to come out of India. Think AIM, and, they're doing some incredible work and incredible reporting on OpenAI and also on AI in general. So, you should read their content. And thank you so much for having me on that list as well. I didn't realize I was on that very interesting list of AI leaders. So thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Pragya.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.